Hey guys, you're looking at the Rob Beeson Gaming channel walkthrough of Dark Souls 2. I've been a big fan of Dark Souls and I wanted to make kind of a completionist guide, a guide that has every single item and every single opportunity, and pretty much every piece of content that you can get, starting with the rusted coin. So as soon as you wake up from your little slumber or wherever you come from, you start going towards the light and you take a right to find the rusted coin over in that little side area. So the area that we are in is called Things Betwixt. It's where you wake up in the game. You know nothing about where you come from other than what's in the first cutscene. I'm avoiding cutscenes, but I'm showing where to get everything. This is trying to be kind of less lore specific and more for the person who wants to double check that they got everything in that specific item, didn't miss anything, didn't leave anything behind, didn't leave any stones unturned. So for instance here, we're just going to call our lady Bob. I don't know why, just lack of creativity. I highly suggest you start with the Explorer, but for me, I'm going to start with the Deprived kinda to show everyone why, or that any playstyle will work. Deprived is pretty much you don't get to keep anything. I also suggest you pick up healing wares. Obviously it gives you a lot of healing items, and I'm going with Deprived just to prove that no matter how you start off the game, you don't need a whole lot of firepower for this first and opening area, but I recommend going whichever way you want. I really like the Explorer. He has a lot of adaptability. Adaptability means that when you're rolling away from attacks or dodging, there's a higher chance that you're not going to get hit. That's all it means. It has something to do with your agility, and your agility having to do with what's called iframes, or invincibility frames during your roll. The higher your agility, the more of your roll includes those iframes. Those iframes are in the middle of the roll. So at the beginning of the roll and at the end of the roll, you're likely to get hit if you have low adaptability and low adaptability. So we went up there, we talked to the ladies, and you go upstairs, you pick up a human effigy, and you start coming through this tutorial area. Each tutorial area is very simple, just kind of explaining what you do, but even without any weapons, you can handle all of these enemies pretty easily. It's not that big of a deal. You just want to essentially preempt their attacks by doing your own attacks. If you can see my hands, they're put together. That means I'm one-handing my 0 weapons, or I'm two-handing my bare hands. So I just put them together. You do that by pressing Y, or I believe triangle if you're on the PlayStation 3. And here's a introduction to backstabs. Just walk up to them and press your R1 and or your quick attack, and that goes into the backstab. If you've played the Souls games before, a lot of this is going to be really not new to you. If I am the only walkthrough or Dark Souls content that you are going to, I know there's a lot of Dark Souls content out there to go to. I just want to say thank you. And so I'm going to try to give you everything that you're going to need. I just picked up the dagger there, so now I'm able to go after these guys, and I realized as I was playing that the strong attack thrusts you forward, while the weak attacks don't move you forward very much. So in order to hit a guy that's being staggered away from you, you need to mix up your light and strong attacks. Your light attacks to get them kind of off their game, and then a staggered animation, and then a strong attack to finish them off. This was not the cleanest fight, but clearly I came out of it relatively unscathed. And we pick up a life gem. As we head back through the fog door. And these fog doors can also, if you've played a Souls game before, be right before a boss. But all of these fog doors right here are totally inconspicuous, and you don't need to worry about it. We're going to drop down to this little area here, pick up a Soul of Nameless Soldier. Obviously, you earn souls. Maybe not obviously. Maybe this is your first time playing. So, what the souls are the currency of the game. Everything that you buy, whether it's leveling up or items or better versions of items by upgrading those items or repairing those items, it all costs souls. So there are certain items called Soul of a blank blank blank, and those items are items that if you die, they stay in your inventory, and whenever you need souls, you can use them, quotey fingers, and that allows you to up your souls by 200, 400, 800, whatever that size of soul provides, and you're able to use those souls on the dot. Otherwise, when you die, you will lose those souls, but you will have one opportunity to go back and get them. Right now you can see I'm fighting this big old troll looking guy, and if you look at my strategy here, the best strategy for this guy is to get behind him, wait for him to do a sit attack, and then do 2 strong attacks. Don't do more than that, or else you're going to use up too much of your stamina and you're not going to be able to control the situation. Stamina is another very important part of the game, where if you run out of stamina, you're pretty much screwed. If you put yourself in that kind of position, there's no one to blame but yourself. So keep trying to get behind this guy. Whenever he does an attack animation, you want to roll, and then just get behind him. Then stab, stab, stab in the butt. Should need just one more stab. Bah! And he drops this really great ring called the Stone Ring. Now let's put this guy on. Go over to that. And so what the Stone Ring does is additional reduction of enemy poise. Now, one thing this game does not do well is explain what things do. So what it said there was that it does additional poise reduction to enemies. What it should actually say is that it adds 10 poise damage to whatever weapon you're using. So where this dagger should be only doing 10 poise damage, it is now doing 20 poise damage, which is that of a much bigger weapon, such as a straight sword. So we just picked up a little lightning buff for a weapon. I don't see myself using it, but they're nice to have. What the type of build that we're going to be going for is a very all-arounder build, using a very early weapon for as long as I can through the game. I'm going to try to keep my strength and my dexterity relatively low, incorporate a lot of spells, and try to show you as many different ways to tackle the game as possible, rather than just building a character that can soak up a lot of damage and dish out a lot of damage. What I'm trying to do is show the myriad of ways to play the game. So I'm probably going to end up specializing in hex magic, but in order to do that, you need to be able to do both sorceries and miracles. And I'll explain more about those as we get into it, but we make this quick little jump up here to grab amber herb. What that does is it regenerates some of the spells that you may have used. So each spell has a limited number of uses that you can increase the amount of uses through either refilling the amount using amber herbs, or by really investing heavily into attunement, which is one of your characteristics, and by the end of the game, you'll have a much better understanding of what all those things do. I am still learning about what all these things do, and of course, if you are looking for more detailed information, I highly suggest going to the many wikis that are dedicated to the Souls games, specifically Dark Souls 2. I use the Wikidot for the most part, but there's also the Fextra Life. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, so I'm setting up my items or consumable items or usable items. Just putting things in the slot in which you press X, and that just uses it. So some healing items, smart to have. Passing through the fog door, and we're gonna start making our way over to where you need to take out 2 of these ogre or troll type characters. And but first, forgot about this, we're going to head up this ladder and use the bird's nest here, and it's less subtle than it was in previous games. Those were confusing as hell, but give us smooth, give us silky. And so we're looking at a smooth and silky stone, so we leave it on the ground, and by leaving it on the ground, they turn it into something else. So what did they give us? Dun, 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 a magic stone. And that's pretty good. We're probably, well, maybe going to use that. So magic stone is just one of the stones that you will use to infuse your item with a certain property. This one, obviously, magic. And by infusing it, you don't need to change it like in previous Souls games from a base to, or from a different kind of weapon. You are more just taking the weapon you have, still upgrading it using Titanite, but just changing the properties. And you can change it back to another property if you so choose to, which is pretty cool. Alright, so here we're going to fail pretty hard at a drop-down stab. Oh, and we're short. And he's doing damage. And I'm getting shot with an arrow. So I'm actually pretty proud of myself for handling my cool over here and not getting killed. So he hits me in the head, which gives me a huge stagger, but his arrows don't do too much damage. Roll out of that one, pull out a life gem, get some healing going, and then hop up the ladder and dodge again, and then take him out, because he deserved it for hitting me in the head with an arrow. Alright, now on to the tricky but super not difficult if you have the patience. More patience than it looks like based on my experience. It usually takes a couple of tries, but I'll show you what I'm working with after I take out this little guy. So he's hanging out down there, but first we want to kick over this little pathway, and you'll see why in a bit. Once we come back, we're going to try to aggro him and his sneaky little, or should I say big, friend over here. There you are. And we'll run up and try to bring them up where sometimes, and not this time, but sometimes they just fall right off the edge when trying to navigate that. But I ran away from him too quickly, so now I gotta go aggro him again. This is a great strategy for pretty much anyone, any bad guy in the game that isn't a boss and isn't in a trapped arena, is to bring the said character to the end of his leash, which is essentially the AI saying, okay, this guy is far enough from where he started, he needs to start heading back there. And by fighting him around his leash, you're able to pull back. So dodged him on the thing, he fell over, and as he tries to get up, oh, poor guy. Well, that was ridiculously easy. Usually it takes a couple of tries. He doesn't usually fall that quickly. So now we're going to use the same strategy on his buddy, or maybe they're a boy and a girl. Maybe they're just hanging out there, and one of them used that little coffin thing, turned into a girl, and they fell madly in love. Run away! So, yeah. Another fight, just like the last. This time you have a bit more space to work with, so it's easier to get behind them and just stab away. And this stab animation is just so nice and quick. Doesn't use that much stamina, and you can just pop, and keep going. 200 damage for each 2 attacks, which pretty good. I think you get more damage depending on where you hit the enemy, so even if it's not a backstab, I think attacks in the back while they're in an attack animation do even more damage than if you just smack them idly. But that's unconfirmed and just me just discussing stuff. I'm interested if somebody knows the details on like when a backstab that is not a full like parry animation style backstab gets more damage. So by clearing those 2 guys out, we have officially mastered or cleared out the forest, and we are going to go talk to this little lady, and by talking to her we will get I don't know if it's part of an achievement, but it's just an item that if I skipped it I would be remiss, and this wouldn't be a completionist guide. So she has to offer the Handmaidens Ladle, which is essentially a joke weapon in which has already turned into the see if you can beat a boss with this weapon, because it does very little damage, has so little durability that it breaks in very few hits, and it's just a terrible, terrible weapon. But I think the designers put it in there as kind of a, well, some people like making our games harder, let's see if they can go through the whole game only using this weapon. So, for instance, a soul level 1 Handmaidens Ladle run would be very, very difficult, but I know somebody's going to try it, somebody's going to pull it off, and when they do, I will be incredibly impressed, because they've got to be using other tactics, other strategies, I don't know. But that's the nature of the Souls games. They're naturally incredibly difficult until you essentially learn them and know the tricks and know the tactics, and so that's why you're watching this. You want a completionist guide. So that's pretty much everything there is to do in Majula, we're on our way to Majula. Everything there is to do in Things Betwixt besides get a quick gender change by hopping in that coffin. But you know, I might like being called Bob as a girl. My name's Robert naturally. I've stuck with Rob for my whole life, but maybe my online persona, my YouTube persona, can be Bob, even though my name's Rob Beeson Gaming. Anyways, hop into Majula. It's a beautiful sunset, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.